Boom. What's good, family? This is just a quick one, man. I just got back from filming and I've seen that Trend Central has done a interview with Victoria Everest regarding recent video that surfaced. So we're 5 minutes in, just a little intro. I'm a wellness woman. I've got one of the fastest growing retreats for rehabilitation and fasting and yada yada yada, blah 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 blah. And now we're just about to get into some meats and potatoes. So rather than that first 5 minutes, skip that. You get me? That's as much as I've watched. Let's get into it. Let's go.
In the video kind of showed that you don't like men. So kind of talk me through that. Like, what's your relationship or your view towards men holistically?
So just to give you a bit of context, my mum's Turkish, my father's Nigerian. I was born.
Man, you lot, man. Leave us alone, bro. We're going through enough as it is. We didn't need this, bro. But yeah, no comment.
Raised in London. Both my parents came to the UK as immigrants back in the 80s. My mum actually couldn't speak any English. Turkish was our main spoken language at home. And I actually ended up learning English at school. My relationship with my father was a very interesting one. He was a well-renowned journalist, had a publication called Business in Africa magazine. And I was his princess. I had a very, very close relationship with him growing up until the age of 12.
You know what I noticed, yeah? This woman's got abs while she sits down. Or like some kind of abby kind of her stomach. I don't know. There's something not right. But yeah, bigger up.
When he then moved to South Africa to pursue his business and his career. And at that point, things really changed for me. Going into my teenage years, not having my father present, I would see him once or twice a year, but he didn't play an active role in my life at all. Kind of going into early teenagehood, adolescence, and at the age of 19, at 47 years young, his life was tragically taken. He was assassinated by a family member. And that was, for me, probably one of the most traumatic experiences.
Yeah, man, I can identify with that, man. Your family member being killed abroad. Yeah, that's very sad, man. That's a very sad story. So what is this like? The tragedy she's letting us know before she tells us why her mindset is the way it is. I hope, no excuse. It's a sad thing for a young lady to lose her father, and especially one where, the relationship's been, what's the word? Estranged. Do you know what I mean?
I had to go through, as a young adult, in my early teens, losing I would say losing my best friend. I looked up to my dad so much. We spent so much time together, even though he wasn't there physically. He still was my idol. And to have his life, to lose him so tragically at such a young age, I think definitely played a burden on me for sure.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm really sorry to hear that. Do you think that your father being absent in your life contributed to how you view men?
Not having my dad around growing up didn't influence my view on men. I think what it did do is it created a space for where I didn't have the right guidance, nurturing, or support structure as a young person. It created the space for me to just essentially encounter challenges, going through, my teenage life from the age of from the ages of 12 to 16. So from year 7, to year 11, I went to 6 different secondary schools. I was expelled 3 times. I'd got myself involved with, a gang.
Medee's surprise face. She's like, "Oh wow, okay." expelled and stuff, yeah? Bad gal. Rebelling against Turkish mum and that. It's mad.
Of criminals, to say it quite frankly. And I almost got myself murdered at the age of 15. I was on the front page of Hackney Gazette because I had been kidnapped, taken, by the kidnappers to a river, had all of my hair cut off. I had a bag put over my head and thrown into the river. I was in a hospital for 2 weeks in concussion. And as a result of that, there was multiple attacks at that time, but as a result of that first attack, I was put into witness protection.
What the hell is she into? What have you got yourself into? This is a dodgy, sketchy lady, man. As a result of that attack, I was put into witness protection, but there was other attacks. So that was the first attack. You was placed into witness protection as a result of that attack. However, there were other attacks. So you was attacked while on witness protection. I don't know what's going on. Like, she got a story, man. She got a story. I feel like 45 minutes ain't gonna be long enough to unpack it. You want to hear it all. We want to know. Because, when you make allegations about being kidnapped and that, I know a couple people's eyebrows are raising, like, is this even real shit that happened to you? And this is the thing. Once you've been caught out in such a big lie, people not even sure if like anything you say is real. We got to fact check, double check, triple check to make sure what you're saying is correct.
Which I later came out of because I decided not to pursue the charges. But at that point, I also was in social services by the age of 15. I was in a foster home. My dad wasn't around, like I said. And both my parents really tried their best with me. I am an only child. And I think by the point where they realized that my life was in serious danger growing up, at the time I was in Hackney. So when they realized that my life was in serious danger, my dad decided to step in and remove me from the UK. And I ended up finishing my studies in Germany. I went to the Berlin British School and I ended up finishing year 11.
Okay, wow, that's a lot to take in. There's so much to unpack in what you've just said. But what I want to touch on is you mentioned you talk about your dad, but where was your mum when all of this was happening?
I also lost my mum in 2021 to COVID. She was 56 years young. So that's...
Yeah, but that's not... Where was she when you was 15?
Talking about my mum always get a little bit emotional. But up until the age of 12, my mum played a really active role in my life. She was the mum that would take me to every single after school club, swimming, horse riding. She is an incredibly, incredibly strong and inspiring woman that poured nothing but love and nurturance into me growing up. But when I hit the age of 12, she met somebody, and the person that she had met was living in Tottenham at the time. We were living in South London in West Norwood. And within a few months of meeting this individual, he was a Turkish man, she fell pregnant. They decided they were going to get married and have a child. So essentially at the age of 12, my mum had decided to start a new family. And I think that's really when my struggles with men really began. And
let's hope that this ain't an abusive stepdad story, man. Sisters, man, take heed, and brothers, take heed, man. This stepdad thing seems to be bare problematic.
Throughout those years, throughout those teenage years, throughout the adolescent years, from the time that my mum was with this man, his name was Sayed, I witnessed the most horrific acts of domestic violence. I'm talking, my mum was regularly beaten black and blue in front of me, had her hair dragged, had her teeth kicked in while she was pregnant to my younger brother. My stepdad kicked her in the stomach. And, it was just one of those things growing up. I ended up really resenting, because I had no control. As a teenager, I had no control. I had no way of protecting my mum. And I thought definitely at the time maybe I can seek safety and comfort on the streets. And that's what I did. I got taken in by the streets. And I remember, 14, 15, that was another thing as well. Whilst I was still at home, I also had challenges because my mum, being Turkish, is white. My stepdad was white. My little brother was also white. So I also felt like I didn't fit in. My dad wasn't around. So the closest space, or I guess the closest I could feel home was really the safety on the streets.
The
And
streets. It's a bit cliche, but a lot of people have had this story, domestic violence, destroying the home, broken homes, parents split up, step parents and half siblings, then the struggle with self-identity because of your dual heritage. I get it, man. It can actually create a lot of turmoil in the mind of a young person. These are things that we all need to consider as we go about our daily lives, building families and leaving families and whatnot. And like men, it's good to see the actions. It's not good to see, but it's important to understand the ramifications of some of their behaviors, or some of our behaviors, should I say, and how they impact children who grow up to be men.
I remember
and women,
going through my teenage years thinking one day I'm gonna kill this man for what he's put my mum through. And that's essentially, I think, was the beginning of, the relationship, the beginning, I guess the beginning of it all was witnessing domestic violence, the severity of what my mum went through growing up. And I know a lot of people can relate in Turkish cultures, especially Turkish, Arabic, any kind of ethnic culture. To be beaten by your husband is normalized. It's one of those things that it's like.
What do you mean any kind of ethnic culture is normalized? I'm sure there's some cultures that have their specific behaviors, but to say any kind of ethnic culture, that's a bit of a mad one still.
Women just have to endure it. We have to accept it. And, that my mum, because of the sake of my younger brother, she stayed in that relationship.
What was the psychological effects that it had on you? How would you describe that?
It almost normalized it, so it was no coincidence when I hit 26, 27 that I kept finding myself in relationships with abusive men. That played a really big part in terms of my psychology. And, not realizing, I think it was more of a subconscious decision that, I was making, that I would end up in a relationship with men who at some point would end up abusing me. If it wasn't physically, it was emotionally or mentally. And it was a pattern that was continuing throughout, kind of my adult life.
So let's talk about the video, the recent viral video. So when the video first dropped, you mentioned that it was fake and it was AI. Can we talk a bit about that? Like, what did you mean?
So given the size and scale of my account, I'm not the person that always is behind running my account. So the video was sent to me. And my first response to the video was that this has been edited, this is fake. And that's what I said to my team. So they then took that and said it was AI. When I realized that they'd put out it was AI, I deleted the story immediately. And, then went forward with.
So what did you mean this is fake and it's been edited? What did you mean by that? If it's not AI, are these your words or not? Because, I've had some experience with having conversations with people on camera recently, and they then double back. Once it's been uploaded and published to the web and everyone can see it, they then turn around, double back and talk about, oh, it's been edited, or, oh, he's made me seem like this is what I'm saying, or, oh, this ain't the full clip.
Saying it's a very, very real video. It's just been, it's a 7-minute video that's been edited specifically to show me in a particular light, so I think there was a misunderstanding.
Nah, there's no accountability.
Sure. Obviously, there's a lot of things that we need to unpack about that video, but you mentioned that, like you hate men in that video. And obviously you describing everything that you've gone through psychologically, you know, one could argue that, you know, it's understandable why you would kind of have that viewpoint. But
No, it's not understandable.
you've mentioned that your dad didn't contribute to it. It was your stepdad. And then you also entered into abusive relationships. What did those abusive relationships look like? What did you experience?
You know, in relation to the video, the person that I was in a relationship with, it was over a period of 18 months. You know, when I first entered a relationship with this guy, generally I would, you know, be naive enough, because I'm someone who wears their heart on their sleeve naturally in every scenario, every situation. And, you know,
especially
one
when
of
you're
the
seeking
things
to destroy men.
that led me to even entering this relationship was just being, you know, being vulnerable enough to take people for face value. You know, the manipulation that went into pursuing the relationship from him, you know, early on in the relationship, really was, you know, when I look back and reflect, I think, okay, you know, I definitely was in a really broken state. When I look back at that video, because, you know, I've watched it a couple times, and just to set the record straight, you know, that video was filmed almost 10 years ago. The person who I was speaking about in that video wasn't arrested and wasn't prosecuted. Whilst I said some extremely, you know, vile things in that video, a lot of people have really focused on the hate and the anger. And
I'm so sorry. I'm just going to cut you because you said the person in the video that you were referring to was not prosecuted, was not arrested, was not charged.
Absolutely not. He wasn't, you know, he wasn't charged. He didn't go to jail. And actually the video was provided to the police, and because the video was provided to the police, he managed to get away with those charges. And as a result of that video being provided to the police, I was charged, caution, and I had.
Hold on. So he was arrested at least. He was at least arrested and accused, right? Because otherwise, without that video, there'd be no charge for him to get away from. So he was arrested, and I believe he was charged, but not convicted, is what you're trying to say. Is that, I don't know, man. Am I hearing this wrong? Fucking hell.
To go on probation. So I have a criminal record, and
So
you know, that was a decision made by the police at the time.
Yeah.
So I really had to pay the price.
Okay, so we're moving along a bit quickly here.
Yeah.
So the video, the man that released the video, Gucci Walker, I believe, right? Am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
He
released a statement saying that his friend, the reason why he made the video was because his friend was charged with a false rape case. Yeah. And at the hands of you planned it. You had the man in your house where you both had intercourse, and then the police caught him there. So he was going to jail. He couldn't bust case on this particular matter because he was found in your house. But you're saying that that didn't happen.
No, so he did get arrested.
Fork tongue. Yeah, dual tongue, dual mouth. One thing then the other. Like, let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. All this double talk is mad. Like, you said he didn't get arrested, but he did get arrested. So I don't know.
Because the video, you know, was provided to the police as evidence, he was released. He never got charged, and he, you know.
So what, are you saying that all happened while he was arrested? This don't make sense.
I never saw Denzel again. That was, you know, over 8 years ago. We've never spoken. We've never seen. He went on with his life. I went, you know, we made a lot of mistakes during that relationship. That was probably one of the most traumatic. I've been through two very, very traumatic relationships in my life. One of those, I mean, when I say traumatic, you know, violent and abusive. One of those was with Denzel, the person that was in question in the video, and his ex-partner warned me. She was a teacher. She had a non-molestation order against him, and she said, look, this guy, she told me exactly what was going to happen in the relationship. And I didn't believe her. Denzel, you know, convinced me also not to believe her. And, you know, and I really paid the price of that. One of the biggest things, that came out of the relationship is during the time that we were together, I fell pregnant. I ended up contracting an STI. He gave me gonorrhea at the time.
There we go. Now, just try to, I don't know. I don't know, man. It's excuses. She's not very accountable lady, man. In all honesty, and it's like a sophisticated sub story to say how she was a victim. She was manipulated. He was a liar. He was abusive. He was all of these things. Yet I had to get him set up for false allegations.
He, at the time I was working at Microsoft, I had a very successful career with a 6-figure salary. And he told me that he was an ex-football player, semi-pro football player, only to later discover that actually he worked on the railways. He was living at his mum's house on the couch. And the car that he'd met me in, which was a brand new Range Rover, belonged to the girl that he was dating at Brown Eagle. It was someone else's vehicle. So
what?
That was only, months into the relationship.
Brown Eagle is a Caribbean shop in, I'm gonna say Hackney. Is it Hackney? If it's not Hackney, then it's North London somewhere. I'm gonna say it's Hackney though. I don't know. I feel like it's East or Hackney.
I was discovering these things. I found a secret.
Oh, what's that got? That's got nothing to do with it. Like, he was driving a fake car. He lied about his job or what he used to do. So what?
Phone in his car, there was a whole array of women that he was meeting up with, and sleeping with at the same time while he was living in my house. And any single time that I confronted him, the backlash was, a verbal, physical abuse. And during the time that we was in the relationship, I called the police 19 times because I was at fear of my life. My son was living with me at the time. I'm a single mom, and my son was around 7 at the time. And that was one of the worst things, that I've ever experienced, was to see my son,
She got fake boobs, yeah? Like, I wonder how these fake boobs and fake body goes with, she's had surgery, and I wonder how that goes with this whole holistic lifestyle. I wonder if she tells people that she got her body through juice.
Witness me getting beaten up by this man. And he wasn't just a man, he was a street thug. He was a guy off the street, from the ends. And, and because of the fact that each time I called the police for abuse, whether it was abuse, in front of or, isolated, maybe he wasn't at home, because there was a child at home, social services were involved. And at the last point where he was arrested, my main concern was keeping him safe. That was the ultimate thing for me. Social services were, I was at complete risk of losing him because I was in this relationship with this abusive man.
At what point did you?
Let's just clarify, man. We don't condone domestic violence against men or women. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, man's not sanctioning that type of behavior. However, I feel like it's slightly inappropriate to be utilizing the banner of domestic violence to mask your behavior or to excuse your behavior or whatever. He beat me up, or he was beating me up, because obviously that's going to play on all of our heartstrings, because regardless, no one wants to see a woman getting broke up by a brother or vice versa. But we're not dealing, that's not what you're here for. This is all in the way, smokescreen.
You decide everything that you're going through in this relationship, the abuse that you were enduring, when did you decide that in order for me to get him back, because that's what you mentioned in the video, that you were going to make this false allegation? When did that thought process land?
So every single time the police were called, the follow-up was made. There was a non-molestation order. There was a restraining order, so he couldn't, come back to the house. But he would always turn back up at the house, crying, begging me, apologizing. He's not going to do it again, and I need to forgive him, that I'm his baby girl, and everything was going to be okay. And being naive and vulnerable. At the time, I would take him back, believe his lies, and not realizing at the time I was experiencing, you know, what we call today is severe narcissism. But there came a point.
Severe narcissism is like she's diagnosed him, what we call today as severe narcissism. I ain't gonna challenge that because I don't know the brother. But let's get to the part where you're accusing him of rape and he never raped you.
Where the social services were like, you know, we're gonna, you're now putting your child in risk by staying in this relationship. It was only in hindsight, when I look back, I take responsibility for being the codependent to enable that relationship to go on for as long as it did. I definitely take accountability, you know, for the things that I said in that video, the hurtful things that I said. I hate men. One of the things I referred to in that video specifically was the fact that I say to the person that was recording the video that I'm going to put a stop to this so that he doesn't go and do this to other women. You know, like, I felt that at that point that the only person that could stop this man was me. And the only way that I could stop him was by sending him to jail. And the reason behind that was, like, I didn't want anyone else.
Victoria, I'm so sorry. I just
Pull her back. Mede's trying to be like harsh with it. You get me?
I'm just gonna interject here.
Yeah.
So, are you saying that you wanted to get him back because of the abuse? Because even though you're mentioning things that he's done, I'm still a bit hazy on what he actually did to you. Like, what was the 13th reason as to why you felt like, I'm going to get him arrested? What was he actually doing to you?
He'd beaten me up in front of he'd beating me black and blue. It wasn't just, you know, my mouth was swollen, I had blood, my eyes, it was just essentially it was a repeat of what I had been experiencing growing up. At that point, he strangled me, so I lost consciousness. And that was the final straw for me. That was it, because I said to myself, like, there's no way I can keep going through this. At the time, my mum was still alive, and she was very much, you know, encouraging me to get the law involved and you know, really make sure that I can draw a line and be able to move on, you know, from this relationship. And
looking back, why did you feel like this was the best course of action for you to take?
When I look back at why I would have taken that, you know, that why I would have been so drastic and so extreme in terms of my response, it wasn't even a response, it was a reaction. It was a reaction. Because I was terrified of what he would do to me, that he would continue to do it to me, put me at harm, put my son in harm, put other women in harm. And I felt like I said, I could be the one to stop that and change that, not realizing, you know, that we don't have the ability to change anyone. We can only change ourselves.
I don't know, man. This is a tough one, man. She's hiding all her fuckery. She's hiding all her toxicity. She's hiding all her wrongdoing. So it makes it hard to empathize with her as a genuine person. I've been introduced to her via lies and via like some hateful words. So now this soft girl version of hers is not. I'm not computing with it that well. Do you know what I mean? I ain't really, you know, sad story and that, what she's been through. Don't get me wrong, and what she's witnessed. But sister, man, you like don't ever take your pain and anguish and try and transform that and overstep the moral boundaries. I don't know. I just feel like, yeah, even if he was beating you up, to pretend that he raped you, it's dead. I'm not gonna lie, I still don't rate it.
And unfortunately, I messed up. I made a
I'll tell you what, I think that a man that puts his hand on a woman can reform. You lot let me know what you think, but I think a man that puts his hand on a woman can reform himself and correct that behavior. but there's no correcting a rapist. Once you're a rapist or you've been labeled as a rapist, that's it. You're wiped, you're rubbed, you're done. There's no returning. There's no repentance. That's my perspective. And I think a lot of society kind of see you like that. You always, I never heard about a man that raped and admitted it and now we all forgive him and he's not like that no more. Man, not trust them, man. Like, you can't be around, man. Can't be around.
Stupid decision in making that statement. And, you know, I had to pay the price. I really had to pay the price. Not only did somebody get away scotch-free from the offenses that they committed, but I ended up, you know, having a criminal record because of it. Ultimately, that wasn't the end, you know, like I had to do, you know, that was the beginning of, and I think I even mentioned it in that recording that, you know, that's what my therapist said. I've been in therapy for almost coming up to 8 years now. And that was the beginning of my therapy. That was the beginning of realizing, you know, my part to play, how I enabled the situation.
You weren't realizing that in your therapy though, because your therapist said, "Are you not tired?" And you said, "No." Your therapist said, "Are you not exhausted? Is this not exhausting?" And you said, "Nah. How is it exhausting?" So I don't know.
And you know, ultimately, I take responsibility because ultimately, you know, I didn't have any self-worth for myself. If I had enough self-worth for myself, I would never let a man like that in my space, in my home, around my child. I had no value of that. And I think that's where it all begun for me.
I think, I mean, the abuse that you've endured is horrible, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I'm so sorry that you went through that. But I think it's very important to kind of like think about the repercussions that a rape charge has. Did you think about that? Because, for example, people that go to prison for rape are, you know, that sometimes they get killed because of the allegations. So obviously, you sending someone to prison, that's number one, taking years off of their life for something that they didn't do. And there's a possibility that they could literally die in prison. Did that thought process go through your mind at all?
At that time, I'm going to be honest with you, it didn't cross my mind at all. My main thing that was on my mind is keeping myself safe and keeping my son safe and making sure that, you know, I don't fall victim.
Yeah, but you cheated on him. You was cheating on him throughout the whole relationship. So this whole thing is not making sense of the person you're painting yourself out to be, because you self-admittedly, someone says that you target men. So that's another point. In the video, it was said that you seek out and target men. You seek them out and you target them and you try to destroy them. This is very different from being abused and trying to find a desperate way out. And what we doing here? And you cheated on him the entire relationship, in your own words. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say that I'm not buying this version of events.
To this abuser again. And like I said, it's not right. I don't condone anything I said in that video. I think it's really important to, you know, to make a very clear distinction in that the person in that video that was speaking is merely just a shell of the person I am today. And I've had to do a lot of work, and that's why my lifestyle is so important to me. You know, when I made that statement, when I said those things on camera, I was a very angry, scorned Black woman who I wanted the guy dead, you know.
Whoa. First and foremost, I've seen some sisters arguing. I was in a TikTok live stream. Some sisters were very passionate, you know what I mean? Not really listening to man, putting words in my mouth as a man and painting me out to be the enemy. But one thing they were very, very adamant on is that this sister is not Black according to them. These were some quote unquote Black sisters. So I don't know whether the barometer or the membership towards Blackness has changed or whatnot. But being that you're half Turkish and half Nigerian, I just feel like just be mixed heritage for this one. Because all this, I was a very scorned, very rare Black woman. I don't know. I'm not counting mixed race people out. It's just, I don't know. You think your mum's white, you think your dad's Black, so you're Black. But you love your mum and your mum was this and your mum was that. I don't know. and you get emotional when you speak about your white mum, but you don't identify with her heritage or who she was. You grew up speaking Turkish, but you're black, just black. You're just I'm just a black woman, especially when it comes to being angry and scorned. Now you're identifying with black, like I'm black.
That black woman who I was a very angry, scorned black woman who I wanted the guy dead. You know, that's the reality of it. You know, for what he had put me through, for the pain they put me through, and it wasn't just everything I had experienced in that relationship. It was almost like the wrath of what I'd experienced through life, and you know how I'd seen men, you know, including my stepdad, and you know, including men that, you know, growing up abuse women. And I feel like at that point, you know, my expression in that video was really just an expression of the wrath and the letdown and
what
the
about the
pain.
cheating?
You know,
that
I
you
was
were
a
doing?
scorned woman. And
Oh, please answer about the cheating.
by making that statement, you know, he didn't go to jail and he didn't get prosecuted. It backfired. And like I said, I really had to sit with the discomfort and the shame around that. And one of the biggest things, you know, I haven't gone into any of the blog posts, and you know, I refuse not to entertain, you know, the gossip or the low vibrational, low frequency conversations. But I will say, you know,
now she's dictating what's high vibration, what's low vibration. Now she's the vibration police. Now she gets to dictate to us what vibration is what. And you know, and admittedly, I would say that social media is low vibration, but you also earn a lot of money off social media. And I think a lot of low vibration is disguised as holistic retreats and yoga and fasting and fruitarian diets and philanthropy and humanitarianism and traveling around the world and not really having a specific fucking job, but somehow milking a hell of a load of money out of social media. You know, you get me? Hell of a load of money out of social media. Do you know what I mean? Online. But yeah, cool. Low vibration. I'm not gonna lie. Low vibration ain't what people think it is. Yeah. Ain't what like this polarism about, oh, this what's good and what's bad. Sometimes uh even Satan can appears as an angel of light. And I'm just saying, this aesthetically pleasing woman who has adjusted her body through cosmetic surgery in order to achieve a certain look would be, when you're looking with your physical eyes, possibly be a high candidate for something you would deem to be high vibrational. You know, lots of bright colors and positive affirmations and healing and shadow work and therapy and yada 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 yada. One bag of crystals. Do you know what I mean? But scratch just a little bit under the surface, and it's a being that hated herself 8 years ago, was a shell of a human being, had no self-worth, systematic abuse throughout her life, traumatic experiences shaping her very view of the opposite sex, uh, identity issues, all sorts. And you just think it's high vibrational. Bare sisters following her, looking up to it, aspiring. We're doing a hell of a lot of aspiring to other human beings that are just as flawed and just as fucked up, if not more fucked up than us. Let this be a lesson to us all, man. All that glitters isn't gold. And sometimes, do you know what I mean? Made the sister heal as well. Who am I? I'm not judging her. But what she done was fucked up. The whole world knows it. And I think if she could have got away with it, she would have. I don't think she would have had an attack of consciousness and been like, oh my God, what I did 10 years ago was so bad. So I only have a limited empathy for her. But we're all humans. We all make mistakes. We all fuck up. But I don't think she's really owning this. And she keeps using words like accountability. I think she's very trained. She's very slick. She's prepared and media savvy. And I think she's being dishonest.
quite a few people have messaged and said, what about your son? And I think it would have been really irresponsible for me, you know, as a 30-year-old woman at that time, to carry that same mindset through to who I am and the woman I am today, you know, and that would have been irresponsible of me as a mum, you know, not making any changes, not not looking in the mirror, not looking at my thoughts, not doing the work to uncondition myself from those thoughts. The reality is, when I fast forward to my life today, I have a very, very healthy relationship with my partner. He's an incredible man. I run retreats across the world, wellness and detox retreats open to men and women. And we even host men's only retreats. Men need healing as much as women need healing too. I'm an advocate for men being open enough to do the work on themselves.
When women are scorned, because I'm not going to lie to you, that's something that I'm sure most of us have experienced. Personally speaking, I wouldn't think I'm going to falsely accuse this man of rape.
Yeah.
Like, is that something that you had done before? How did that even enter into your mind? Is that something that you had seen someone do? Like, why was that the thing that...
Big up Midday. She's got some funny facial expressions, man. Very expressive. But big her up. She's doing her thing in this one, man. She's doing her thing on this one. This one's all right, because I know a lot of people want to see the bad up. But the bad up doesn't always work when you're trying to get the story and trying to get as much as the full story as possible. The bad up doesn't always work. Having a little bit of crunch to you, a little bit of resistance, a little bit of pushback, that's cool. But you also want your interviewee to be like relaxed and whatever. But yeah, I think Bouncer said he's going to be chatting to her. I don't know if that happened. I'll look for that after this.
You said, I'm going to get him via this route, as opposed to for the actual abuse that he was doing.
Because he had actually sexually assaulted me in the relationship. There were so many times in the relationship that he had sex with me without my consent. And I think that's where it all came to, whilst he hadn't, on that occasion, when I reported him, he hadn't raped me. During the time that I was in the relationship, he assaulted me continuously. Like I said, it wasn't just physical.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I don't even think that you should be allowed to claim that. I don't even think legally you should be allowed to claim that he's done these things to you, because you've gone to court and you've gone to the police and it's been foundless. So I don't even think you should be allowed to make that claim. I think that's outrageous, because there's a man out there whose name you've bust out, and we're not blanked his name out. We've blanked out your child. We've not blanked out this innocent man. As far as we know, we don't even know if any of the claims you're making about his behavior are true. We don't know if any of them are true.
Abuse, it was mental, emotional, and there was, I can count numerous times in the relationship while we were together, and I did not consent. I didn't want to have sex with him, and he pushed me to, and he forced me to. And unfortunately, like I said, there is no justice in the justice system, and the police couldn't protect me from this man.
Had you made previous reports? Had you gone to the police
I'd
prior?
called the police 19 times. There's a record of 19 separate occasions during the time we was in a relationship for 18 months where I'd called the police for whether it was domestic abuse, violence, sexual assault.
What was it for? What did you call the police for?
For domestic abuse, violence, sexual assault. Throughout the 18 months, there was 9.
And the police didn't do anything. There was no
follow-up, because I kept letting the man back into my space. There's only so much that they could do. I was I had a huge part to play in this, in the toxicity of it. I was in a very toxic, broken space.
So let's go back to the video, Victoria. In the video, firstly, who are you speaking to in that video?
So the person I was speaking to, I don't know, I didn't know his name was, I don't know his name. I don't know who the person was. It was a complete stranger. Like he said in the statement, he came up to me in the gym one day, he worked his charm, and somehow, got me to whether it was coercion or charm, I don't know.
But that don't make sense, because you was chatting your head off to him. You was proper engaged in sharing, and he was like, yeah, but you said this and you said that. He's quoting things that you've said. So you was very, very, very comfortable talking with this stranger. Very comfortable. Right?
No, but, to really express myself and express the pain, whether it was coercion or charm, I don't know. But, to really express myself and express the pain.
Did he tell you that he knew Denzel? Did he tell you that he knew him?
He told me that he knew him, and
Okay.
you know, he said, you know, I think he said specifically, you know, why would you do that? And I responded, and I was like, he deserves it. You know, I want to take him to the cleaners. You know, was my exact word. I want to take him to, you know, for all the suffering he put me through. It was a 7-minute video. It has been, you know, edited to really make me seem, you know, there's no justification, but it, you know, it has been heavily edited.
You said that this video was made nearly 10 years ago.
Yeah, I can't even believe somebody could hold on to a video that long, you know, with the...
Why is it being released now?
I don't know. I think you need to ask him that question.
Okay. So have you not had any interaction with him
None
prior
at all.
to him releasing the video?
None at all.
Okay.
However, there was an interaction with, and I said to you, there was 2 occasions, 2 really abusive relationships that I've experienced in my life. You know, one of those was, you know, over 8 years ago, the one that we just discussed. The second one was more recent. Several years ago, I met a guy while I was traveling. I was doing retreats in Egypt, and during the time, we'd crossed paths, and it was in December, it was around December. He had lost his mum. He's come back to the UK, and he turned up at my door one day, and he was like, "We met in Egypt. Do you remember?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And he's...
I'm silent because you meet somebody in Egypt and in December they turn up at your door? Door where? In the UK? How did they get to your door? How does anyone reach your door? There's an obvious hole in the plot right here. How did he find out where you lived? Everything's so innocent, man.
It's like, I've just lost my mom, and I'm going through a tough time. Could I come in? And I let this guy into my house. And
so just to clarify, this stranger that you met in Egypt came to your door. I'm assuming you gave him your address for him to do that.
Yeah. He came to my door. I gave him my address. He came to my door.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you just let him in to your house.
Yeah, I let him into my house. And over the next 3 months, what had occurred was, you know, very, very similar to the last abusive relationship that I was in. The control, the coercion, the physical violence. He'd never hit me, but he would, anytime we would get into an argument, he would strangle me. And that was his thing. He was a guy that was almost 4 times the size of me. And I guess the one big difference between that relationship and you know, this one that I'm describing now is that within the first 3 months of realizing, you know, the red flags, I severed the ties completely. This time round, I had the confidence and the strength to be able to pursue, let the police know, and he was arrested and charged and remanded for assaulting me. And when he was remanded in August, I then had to find the courage, you know, and I've never gone through this process before, to stand up in trial and face this man and face, you know, face the situation. And really, at this point, I leaned on the justice system to really, you know, navigate and support. And I've only heard this, but I can really relate with those individuals, those women who have experienced domestic violence in any way. And it was definitely a really challenging experience for me to go through. I'd never been in a space where, whilst I was a victim of barrister and a jury, you know, being questioned, the evidence that they needed, all of my medical reports to see. So he was let off scotch-free. And as a result, you know, when he came out, that's when the blackmail and abuse began. So he began to send me messages to say, "Watch, I'm going to get you. I'm going to kill you. You're going to face the price for this. You're going to pay the price." And this is the individual that has surfaced the video. So he's been the person that has, you know, over the last 6 months tormented and blackmailed me to the point where I just said, I'm if you're going to release the video, release the video. He is a very vindictive, very manipulative person. Like I said, I haven't seen him since he was arrested, apart from the time, even in court when I had to stand up. They give the option to the witnesses to have a mask, so I didn't have to actually see his face in court.
So who is this person that you're talking about, and what relevancy do they have to the video being released?
The individual that I'm talking about is a gentleman by the name of Jason, and he got hold of the video. And
how did he get hold of
I don't know the
video?
relationship between Jason and Gucci, but maybe they met. I'm guessing that they would have met and they would have talked about the situation. And Jason is essentially on a very vindictive campaign to ruin my life, essentially.
Jason bust case. So this is potentially another innocent man that you're lying about. I'm not gonna lie, because it don't look good. Jason has bust case. So I don't know, man.
Ruin my life, silence me. And in his words, he wants me to pay the price.
This is very, very confusing, Victoria. There's 3 people here.
Yeah.
Denzel, Jason, and Gucci. Are they friends?
So Denzel and Jason do not know each other. They're 2 relationships I had 10 years apart. The similarity between those 2 relationships was both relationships where I was assaulted and abused, and there's been, the Denzel relationship didn't go, the assault charge didn't go anywhere.
Do they know each other in any way?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of.
So then how did Jason get access to the video or know about the video?
So from my understanding, and this is hearsay, I don't know the facts around it, but my understanding is that Jason paid Gucci to release the video.
But how did he know about the video?
Yeah. Gucci told him that he still had a copy of the video from 10 years ago.
Gucci and Jason know each other?
Correct. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And that's where that came from.
Okay. There's still holes.
Yeah,
I'm still a bit confused, because Gucci said in his statement that he found out that somebody was facing rape charges, and I'm assuming he was referring to Denzel.
He was referring to Denzel, correct.
So he knows Denzel.
Gucci knows both Denzel and Jason.
Jason. Okay, fine. That's okay. That makes sense now. Okay.
And in terms of the relationship between Denzel and Gucci, I don't know when or how they met, but when Jason found out he had a copy of this video, he then used that to blackmail and ammunition to say that I'm going to tear you down and release the video. And
what's the timeline of that relationship?
6 months.
6 months. And when was that?
So we met in January, and by August, that's when he had been arrested and remanded by the judge. The judge had made a decision to remand him because he had breached bail conditions on 4 separate occasions, and this was the final occasion. And at this point, the final point when he breached his bail conditions, he'd broken into my house. He had set light to all of my personal possessions in the house. I've got a video of him breaking into my house. And then when I turned up at home later that morning, he then tried to strangle me. I was, at the time, it was the next door neighbor who saw me screaming for my life and trying to climb out the bedroom window to try and protect myself from this guy. They called the police. The police turned up and arrested him on the spot.
I don't know why it was at your yard. Anything could have been going in. Can't even really take your word for it just because of the track record. So it's difficult, man. It's a difficult one.
Unfortunately, he didn't get prosecuted because, like I said, there was the police had not provided my medical report, the strangulation charge, and it just wasn't strong enough for the jury to make a decision. So I definitely feel that situation, despite the fact he did serve time, it wasn't really justified, for what had actually happened. And now he's out. Like I said, he's on a vendetta. He's on a revenge train, and this is really his opportunity to as he says it, get one up on me.
So when he was blackmailing you, what exactly was he asking for? What did he
Exactly.
want
Yeah.
from you? What
Yeah.
did he want you to do?
So he wanted me to pay him money. That was the bottom line.
okay.
You know, it was a case
Was
of
there how much? What was he asking for? Was there a
he
particular
said to
amount?
me,
Or
the messages said I needed to send him 10K now, and if I didn't send him 10K, 10K, he would release the video. So I said,
You should've paid the 10K.
release the video. I said, release the video. Like I said, you know, I'm really grateful for the support system and network and community that I've built. And I think one of the biggest things, you know, that have come up in the comments over and over and over again is that, you know, people don't understand, you know, why is it that I haven't had half my followers lost after this video being released. And
So you're seeing the comments, yeah? So you're seeing the comments. So you are watching social media, so it's not too toxic to watch. Just saying, innit? You got holes in your story. You're intelligent, but I think she thinks she's too intelligent, and that's how she keeps fucking up. And certain people are finding holes in their stories, and probably the men she's been with have found holes in the stories because for some reason Midday hasn't asked about the fact that this woman clearly stated she cheated on the man the entire relationship, and she hates the man because he's just like her. Let's remember all these contexts of the things she said.
I feel that, especially if you're new to my page, you know, I've over the last 5 years, I've laid my soul bare. You know, my community have been my rock over the years. I have never, ever shared any of the challenges that I've experienced as a human being, as a woman, around the violence, the domestic violence, the abuse, you know, the any of the hardships. You know, people jump on my page and possibly think that, you know, I was raised with a silver spoon in my mouth and you know, I'm not a human just like you guys. And I just feel that, you know, yeah, I definitely feel that when people get to know me, and that's the thing, you know, the reason why people are still here today and still supporting my work and my movement is because the individual in that video that expressed that anger and hate towards men isn't who I am today. It really isn't a reflection of who I am, what I stand for, the work that I do. And it's evident, it's really evidence. Like, let's deal with like evidence and facts, you know, with this situation. Yeah.
End of part 1, yeah? All right, you got a video of Jason in the crib, but all right, cool. Well, yeah, man, let me know what you lot think. I'm gonna release this right now. No editing, no nothing. It's going up on YouTube. Big at yourself. It's Sunday night. Hope you enjoy it. Sklackle.